the Rothschilds paid Epstein 25 million to make it go away. And like, why do you think this guy can get the regulators off your back? He's just a math teacher from Dalton, right? He's just a failed hedgie from Bear Stearns. Why are you giving this guy money? They knew. How come? What could Epstein do that Goldman Sachs, with all their lawyers and all their money, couldn't accomplish? Because they lost 5 billion. The Rothschilds only ended up total paying 75 million, 25 of which was the Epstein, so really only 50. That's nothing compared to 5 billion. And it wasn't because they had a lesser role. It's because they had Epstein. She knew who to go to make the problem go away. That
And then
level of white collar crime is just enormous power. But Jess Staley's just the idiot that got caught because he wrote it down.
Good day, everybody. I've got Ryan Dawson here from ANC Report. I've got my friend Jaytron, who's also here, who's also a co-guest and who is also interested in the Epstein files as well. And so we're here to ask Ryan some questions. Ryan, how are you today?
I'm all right. I'm in the Epstein files.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
not in a bad way, in like they're complaining about me way.
So this is my first and only time I'm talking to someone from the Epstein files. I've spoken to Ryan before. Ryan, we were talking a little bit off camera about the Epstein story. It has evolved. It's twisted. It's gone left. It's gone right. People can't seem to know what the story really is about or should be about. If you can kind of bring us up to speed.
Well, I'm glad you're keeping it alive because the pointless war in Iran has sort of, not that this is why they did that, but it has distracted everybody from it was red hot on the Epstein files, and then suddenly it was Iran war season, and they've forgotten about Epstein. But one of his, you could call him a lieutenant, his top banker, Jess Staley, who used to work for JPMorgan Chase and Barclays, he was the guy that facilitated a lot of the hush money and cash grabs that Epstein was using to pay for his network of pedophiles, and also paying hush money to the girls. It all came through Jess Staley. He got dragged before Congress in July, and it's had almost no news. This is one of the top people you need to. Burnell's dead. Maxwell's not talking. Epstein's dead. So Les Wexner and Leon Black and Jess Staley are the next three big names you'd want to get. And it was all closed session. And hardly any news came about it because they just before that they arrested Andrew and Tristan Tate, and that was just all the news about human trafficking and a rape and that kind of thing. It just sucked up the internet for a bit. But while that was going on, that circus, Jess Staley was getting questioned. And I'll let people know this banker. Not only did he help Epstein, Epstein had a bunch of trusts that he would use and financial services use. He had one called Financial Trust Company, the Southern Trust Company, that would pay things like MC Squared, which was a modeling agency in France run by Jean-Luc Brunel, who's now died. He allegedly killed himself in prison all by himself, allegedly. I say he was suicided. Another guy named Daniel Said, who also died during investigation. Now, and in France, when the perpetrator dies, the investigation ends because they can't defend themselves when they're dead. So some of the compensation and things they wanted from those two who absolutely scouted and got models for Epstein, it's never going to see the light of the day, but you could find out through all the bank transactions and things. Somebody would know a lot about it is Jess Staley. And Jess Staley is kind of infamous now because it came out in the Epstein files, although we already had this information before the files came out. But what the files did is it made like laymen realize stuff that researchers have been trying to get out forever, but couldn't because of censorship. And he is in these files saying, I effed her twice as soon as she put the costume on. What he's referring to there is dressing up some Eastern European like Snow White. And because he had a Disney princess fetish, and there's Corey, he's like, who would you like next? He said, maybe Beauty from Beauty and the Beast. Or no, he said Beauty and the Beast. And Epstein says, I'll provide you the beauty, but not the beast. Ha ha ha. They actually had a book. Do you know Well, it's not old for us, but for the kids, they don't know. It would be like a flip book that had Polaroid photos and stuff in it, and you'd open it up. It's like clear plastic and has little pockets, and you put the that's what they had, and they put the girls in their little uniforms and stuff, and you would just choose which princess or maid or whatever you wanted to boink, and Staley had that, and he apparently he got off on Snow White quite hard, and some other Disney things. Now Disney princesses are around 16; these girls were even younger, and he had such a good relationship with Epstein that he could visit his house when he wasn't even there. He went to the Florida properties while Epstein was in prison. Of course, Epstein's prison stint the first time was prison-ish because 6 days a week he got out on work leave, and he'd only spend the nights in jail. All day he'd be out doing what he was doing before, and on Sunday he went to jail, whatever. But yeah, Staley would visit his properties without him there. There were so many red flags at JPMorgan, and they did end up getting sued. And this is interesting too. The woman from the Virgin Islands, she was the attorney general down at the VI that brought about that lawsuit. Her name was Denise George. The governor fired her after she did it, but she already filed it. It went through, and JP Morgan lost $290 million to the victims and another $75 million to the Virgin Islands. And there's another asset lawsuit going on as well. When they finally dropped Epstein, Deutsche Bank picked him up and did the exact same things, and they got sued for $75 million, and they lost. Deutsche Bank lost. So the question would be, okay, well, who are these people tracked for? What the laws with the if you look at the court records, it says tracked for commercial sex purposes. So prostitution. They weren't all trafficked to Epstein himself. Now they tallied up the money that Staley had been hiding and facilitating for Epstein, all these cash grabs. Um, and if you look at the average payout for a quote unquote massage is around $200 to $300 for the girl, then they had over 20,000 rapes, and that a year. That 365 days a year, all those didn't go to Epstein himself. I mean, he wouldn't even have time. He definitely had clients, and they know that, and they are protecting them. They're acting like Epstein and that Maxwell and all, they all trafficked them only to Epstein. He did all of it all by himself. Now that's preposterous. Yeah, but the conditions of getting the money is the girls have to be quiet. It's an NDA, so they get paid, but then they can't say anything further on the case. And that's ridiculous. But they take it because they're scared if they don't, they'll get nothing anyway. And even if they talk, it doesn't matter because we know who a lot of these clients are. I mean, I put them all on a list. I even put them on a shirt. No one sued me or anything. First and last names, calling them pedophiles. I'm not worried about it because I know it's true. And the more files come out, the more exonerated I am, more vindicated I am that these people were involved in this nexus, this white collar crime, child prostitution, as well as of age prostitution. And it's not that, like, I really don't care that much about of age prostitution. That's a much worse. It's much worse with children than with grown women. But it's that it's being utilized as a form of blackmail or insurance policy to make sure that other white collar crimes go forth, because it's like, well, if you screw me, I'll screw you back because I have this over you. They compromise them in order to make deals. A lot of criminal networks do that. They'll ask you to commit a crime in front of them, so they know, like, you can't turn on me. You can't squelch our deal. And that's all. A lot of it. That's all it was. It wasn't really blackmail per se. It was more like prove you're one of us, and it's just something in the culture of these big financial institutions. All do that. If you think about it, it's not like they need Jeffrey Epstein to go buy an escort. Everybody at Bear Stearns or any of these institutions knows how to get a hooker. It's not complicated. And a lot of these people know how to launder money. It's not like Epstein was some super genius that had some scam they'd never heard of. It's that Epstein worked for Israeli intelligence, so they knew as long as you involve them in the crime, you can get away with it because the U.S. government will not. I mean, Israel. I mean, they just told a genocide in front of the world, and we still send them money. So through APAC and all the other levers of power that Israel has over lawmakers, they knew that if you needed a cleanup guy, Epstein, if you wanted to launder money and get away with it, then utilize Epstein because they're not going to touch him.
Yep.
They're not going to touch him because he's the one bringing the little kids to all the most important people. And, this was global. It wasn't just MC squared from Brunel in France. And before, and that guy's taken over from John Casablanca and this guy named Gerard Marie. And it sounds like a girl. It's not. It's a French guy. Both pedophiles. They were the ones that set it up early. Back when earlier before Epstein, there was Trump and there was Casablanca. Trump and David Copperfield used to be judges at Casablanca's show in New York. He's the guy that invented the supermodel. Dated Stephanie Seymour when she was like 14, 13, 14 years old. Disgusting, like before Axl Rose. Then, but they created like the Claudia Schiffer, Cindy Crawford, that sort of 90s era of supermodel. They invented that. But all through that, they were, especially through Victoria's Secret, where Stephanie worked, that was owned. Well, it got Lex Wester bought it. And he's the primary financial backbone of Jeffrey Epstein in the early years. He'd later get replaced by Leon Black. And then maybe to a lesser extent, Glenn Dubin. These are all billionaires, by the way. Leon Black, he ran Global Apollo Financial as a hedge fund. A lot of these guys are hedgies. His one of his executives was Robert Kraft, who also owns a football team. And I think he's the saddest among these characters because he also got his little happy endings and blowjobs from masseuses down there in Jupiter, Florida, because his regular place had closed down. So he went with a friend somewhere else and apparently fell in love with the hooker. He's like, I think Ling Ling is special. I'm not like all the other guys. He was exactly like them all. But being a billionaire works because the women involved in that who were trafficked there from China, I mean, they all got punished, but the Johns did not, or at least Robert Kraft didn't. It's like you went there and you went back there. So you all participated in this illegal activity. You gave money, they gave you a service. It is illegal, but somehow you got away with it. It pays to be, it pays to pay, you could say. So, but it's what a small world that he happened to also be employed or work with Leon Black, who gave hundreds of millions of dollars to Jeffrey Epstein. And that's not for like financial advice. He's getting squeezed. They had to explain his income from somewhere. And Epstein would lie and act like he owned all the things that his backers owned. Like he would say that he was an executive of Victoria's Secret. He wasn't, but it was a way. And his underlings would say the same sales pitch. Oh, I know this big New York financial guy. He runs Victoria's Secret. We can get you a modeling job, blah, blah, blah. They'd rope these little kids in with all these false promises. And they had a kind of two-tier system where at MC Squared, which started as Karen models from Tel Aviv, of course, before it went to New York and Miami, it was a modeling agency. It wasn't just like a front, but it was like having two books. They had models that did modeling, like real commercials and magazines and stuff, and they had models that were never used for modeling, but they were sent to parties and dinners and stuff as catfish, or not as catfish, as honey traps, and as well, it's catfish in the way that they're younger than they're saying. But a lot of these parties and thing, they didn't really put a lot of effort into figuring it out. Yeah, they just wanted to be like, oh, I didn't know she was 17. Like, you didn't care. Yeah. And these girls just got passed around, and sometimes their passports would be taken away. And the MC Squared also served as a way to get them visas. And eventually, Epstein, when he had enough clout in the Virgin Islands, he had everybody there on his payroll. It's a very small government, St. Thomas. He would enroll them in the university and get them student visas, even though they never went to class and weren't really students. They just used it as a visa farm so they could bring them there and get them into the US and put them in front of the right people, put them on this like circuit of, dinners and fashion shows and things. And it's just amazing how many professionals are sick perverts. But Bill Gates, he ended up getting STDs from Russian hoes. He had a couple of affairs with Microsoft employees and employees with a star because their job didn't matter. He just had them there. He had two cars. I think I might have told you this story before. He had like this weird gold colored car. What color's your gold car? He would go to work in one car and leave in the other. So if his wife went by and see his car is parked, oh, he's there, he's working. Yeah, but he wasn't. He just had another car to go play with it. He had a 20-year-old mistress. He's such a mark, and Epstein got him. He was actually better friends with Maxwell, but the photos are out and with the girls, and he's just smiling ear to ear. And come on, Bill. And it's just like you at one point were the richest man in the world. You can't just go get an escort in Vegas. Like, are you that desperate? Do you have to do this? And why in the world would you go down to the island? Because you can do all the things you want to do wherever you are. You don't have to go to the Caribbean. But if you do, you don't have some other plausible explanation. Because you could do in Florida, New York, New Mexico, whatever. You go, well, we were doing science or the foundation or something. But why would you go to Epstein Island? There's only one reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ryan, I want to ask Jaytron, see if you, I know that, what I tell you, Ryan's well informed
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
he
No,
speaks his
very,
mind.
very well in depth. I just kind of want to know. I want to know your thoughts. You mentioned kind of the financiers and everything like that. A lot of these billionaires and everything. How much have you dug into and everything? The fact that probably one of the most interesting people to me right now, somebody who's literally still in office, is Howard Lutnick.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like this guy's still being paraded around. He's sitting courtside at the New York Knicks games, and it's like I think he still has a position at our White House currently.
He brought his
And it
kids
blows
to
my
the
mind that
to Epstein Island. Howard Lutnick's a scam artist, reinsurance scam artist from September 11th. His brother died in the towers. He's just a disgusting Jewish supremacist. Is like total pro-Israel. He's like you can see each president's got one that's always in the picture behind him. It's like he's taking over that role of a Sullivan, let's say, and that Biden had, and he is just irredeemable. He lied and said he cut off all relations to Epstein after Epstein got prosecuted the first time for a 14-year-old prostitute. It's not really prostitution when you're groomed. It's just raping a child. Um, there are different terms. There's sex with a minor. Like if it's consensual, it's sex with a minor. But can it even be consensual at that age? Like, so if someone's 17 and a half, you sleep with them, there is some wiggle room, like of what it is legally and how many years in jail you're going to get. But 14, anything between 13 to 15's got its category, and anything below 13's got a very serious category. But she was in that, she was only 14. And really, it's the sweetheart deal that saved him, because when you go and read the files, and you can go read the police chief even complaining about it, it was several 14-year-olds, a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, and a 17-year-old. He hit every range. And these aren't like people showing up every day. It was like happened to them once. They ran home, cried, told their parents, told the police, they did not want to be there. Sometimes his method didn't work. He'd go coax him into massage, and then maybe he'd flip over with a boner, or he'd flip over naked, start touching himself, and Maxwell would be there. Oh, it's he just whatever. They're mortified. They don't want to see some old dude's weird egg penis. Like he wrecked a lot of young girls' psyches. There was a girl that refused. They took her in a taxi, no clothes, threw out in her grandmother's yard, nude. They felt untouchable, and it's because he'd paid off the Palm Beach Police Department. It only cost him about 100 grand donation. They just leave you alone. He
unbelievable.
knew what he was doing, and the police chief was incensed. They couldn't believe that Barry Kirscher and Alan Dershowitz. It's like they just worked together. The defense and prosecution were both like, "Nah, he's one of us." And when Acosta said I had to back off, he's intelligence. Well, it wasn't the U.S. spying on itself. You look at all the surnames. It doesn't sound very Russian. Doesn't
Yeah.
sound very Chinese. Bet we can guess who it is. It's the one you're not allowed to say. The
However,
only one you're not
China,
allowed to
China and
criticize.
Russia seem to be the thing we always want to focus on. It's
Oh, if it
China,
was China or
Russia.
Russia, you could say it.
Exactly.
But if
But
it's
it's the
who it
one you can't
actually
say.
was, it would get you banned from YouTube to admit
Ryan, are you
who
speaking
it
from personal
was.
experience?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Well, exactly.
Ryan, there's so much stuff
Oh,
going on.
during
Yeah.
I forgot this point. When Denise George did that lawsuit that initiated the whole thing against JPMorgan, which finally culminated to last month, Jesse Staley getting taken down to Congress, that's the first time they arrested the Tate brothers. 2 days
Yep.
after that, they arrested them both.
Yep. Well, but the Tate brothers. Now, who backs the Tate brothers?
Well, they made a lot of their own money doing webcam and stuff. It doesn't mean they're not guilty. It doesn't mean they are
But
guilty. It's just the timing that whenever they wanted to get off of Epstein, they get some other giant news story.
from what I understand, they have an Israeli funder who kind of controls everything that they do. And so my thing is
That's how I
they're
have it.
always
It's worse. They built up their own businesses coming from really not much in Luton, and they got scammed. And so the Israelis have like weeded their way into owning the keys to their schools and everything else, the real world stuff. It's all run by Jews. And it's not like they knew that. They didn't present themselves like that. They thought, well, I'm a white European. I can help you, Dev, and da da da. And then that guy turned around and sold it to another guy and ended up all being Israeli. But they can't say anything because that's like 99% of their revenue. So if they lose that, the war room isn't anything. It's all the real world. The real world is what makes all their money, and the Israelis run it. And that's why
Ryan,
they couldn't say anything for like the last year and a half. I was like, I got to pretend like I don't even know these guys because I know what had happened.
Ryan, if you be first of all, really quick, you mentioned earlier that you're in the Epstein files. If you can expound a little bit on that before maybe the narrative is not something we want it to
Yeah,
be.
it was weird.
But secondly, also with that, love to kind of get your input on just what are the questions that we should be asking, because there are so many things going on, so many stuff in the media. I don't even
Canadian
know
question
what's
must
the
be
right
addressed.
question right now. So if you can tell us why are you in the Epstein files, and two, what are the right questions?
All right. So at first, I had 21 mentions, and very quickly it dropped to 11. And so I wondered, oh, which ones did they remove? Because sometimes it's just redundancy. If you go in the files, there is a lot of like almost exact copies of things. So I thought maybe that's it. But most of it, they had my emails, which is weird that they can just have my internal, like my Gmail and read my mail. That's great. Thanks, government. So I was like, well, I can just go through my own mail and find the stuff they erased just by doing searching and stuff. So I had read them. Some of it was correspondence with victims, and people can deduce who they were, but they did blot it out. So I think I have to blot it out, whatever. But it was women that they had done things to. I was talking to them. One of the things that got under their skin was I was talking about Virginia Giuffre's death. And I was actually trying to calm down a lot of the victims, say, no, she wasn't murdered. I know why everyone thinks that. Because anytime an Epstein whistleblower dies, the it's very reasonable to assume, well, they probably killed her. But no, she had already done all the damage she could do. And in fact, she had a book coming out. So murdering her would have been the dumbest thing because it would draw attention to her last words and put the focus with where they had tried to take it off of. She committed suicide. She went through a horrible divorce. She had lost her kids. She had some problems. She was self-medicating. Uh, which I get when you've been serial raped since you're 13. That's very hard to overcome. And when she couldn't see her kids on one of them's birthday and then missed them on Easter, she was in a car wreck. Uh, Not very serious. A bus hits, kind of sideswiped the car. But in Australia, the rule is if you're in a car accident, you go to the hospital just in case. So they checked her, and they were only checking because of the car accident. But serendipitously, they said, "Wow, your kidneys are shot. Like, you need to stop taking pills. You're weeks away from death if you don't handle this. And people misread that and thought that the car accident had damaged her kidneys. And when they were like, it wasn't that bad an accident, she's a liar, la 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 la. She never said the accident caused the kidney failure. She said the accident is what led to them discovering that she had the kidney failure because it made her go to the hospital. And it doesn't matter. Like, they were trying to smear her and call her a liar because she was one of the central witnesses that helped bring Epstein and Maxwell down. And she told the truth. And in her book, you could see like the school she was sent to did get closed down for abuse. The first guy that abused her before Epstein did end up in prison for trafficking girls out of the Czech Republic. Like, all the stuff she said that sounded outlandish checked out. It was true. When she talked about Glenn Dubin being a client and his wife being pregnant and all the timeline, that is when she had a baby. That is, all of it worked out. So they lied about her. Anyway, I was explaining it because I was like, I'm not going to let the kooks take over this. And also, I didn't like everyone jumping to conclusions saying she was murdered, because that scared the hell out of all the other remaining girls. They thought, oh, they're just killing us now. And I said, no, she killed herself. I even talked to one of the paramedics that came to the scene who didn't really know who she was. She lived in a farm north of Perth in the middle of nowhere in Western Australia. And she'd taken the whole bottle. She put a black, just like a black rectangle on her Instagram with the song Somebody That I Used to Know, which I believe is out of Australia. Very, I don't know why it is, but a lot of pedophiles are fond of that song. I don't know if it's something in the lyrics or what it
Like
is.
Guyot? Is it
Yeah,
GYOT?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Somebody
yeah.
that I used to
You're correct.
know.
Yeah, it's Australian.
There's a they some freaky thing. I think it's Steve Colbert paint on his face and stuff, and some kid, whatever. It's one of their things. Uh, but for her, I think it was just it's a Australian band and a breakup song, and she lost her husband, and that was what she put. She put a broken heart emoji next to it, so that kind of leads to it. And she decided, I'm almost out. My kidneys are on its last leg. I can't see my kids. The hell with it. And took all the pills and went to bed. She died in her bed. Um, anyway, that was one of the things in the files. I thought I was trying to think, why are they interested in this? Like, why is this matter? And why does it need to be in the Epstein files? Not even talking about Epstein, just talking about one of the whistleblowers. That was something in it. But there were some other things discussing with some of the other victims, one of whom was the very first person to blow the whistle on Epstein. But that was back in 96. And, Clinton is an Epstein client, so he isn't going to act on any information on Epstein, and neither is his FBI. And they didn't. It took all the way until the Me Too movement, for as bad as it is going too far the other direction. One of the things it did do was temporarily lift statutes of limitations. So a lot of these people who were little kids when it happened to them are adults now, and they had the wherewithal to go through the process to sue these people. And Epstein did get arrested when he got back from France. They nabbed him, and he went to MC in jail. He got locked up in prison in New York. Then they found Maxwell, and then they found Burnell in Paris, and they arrested him. So the three top Epstein executives, him and his madame and one of his top recruiters, not one of the top recruiter he had, all got jailed. Two died in jail. One, thanks to Todd Blanche, has gotten a little comfy jail compared to where she was. As long as she'll say Trump did nothing wrong, he's a great guy. Which she did. Of course she did. She's got no choice. They're like, look, you can say this, you can get a comfy jail, or you can tell the truth and you die of COVID tomorrow.
And that's just Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell. Her name's Glenn, but I called her Ghislaine because I think Ghislaine is funny.
It helps.
And people didn't get the joke, and all these people that grift off my work call her Ghislaine, and that's just become her name. It's not. It's Glenn. It's Glenn Maxwell. But everybody calls her Ghislaine Maxwell because everybody's getting their information from me or someone who got it from me.
Ryan, so why are you in the Epstein files again? And then what's
Yeah,
it mean?
there
And
isn't a
how
reason.
are
It's
you
just like them. They're just showing my communications with victims, and
know,
one of them I was explaining the death of Virginia Giuffre, and some of the other ones I'm going off on the Epstein clients. And I say, man, why are you redacting these names? I can just put this same thing up on Twitter anyway. But it disturbs me that like they didn't show what my email was, but they wrote Ryan Dawson next to it, and everyone knows which Ryan Dawson it is, right? Oh, that could be some other Ryan Dawson, I suppose, but you know it's me, like you know it's which one it is.
so you've seen
It's the
some of your
Ryan Dawson in Japan. Yeah. Oh,
oh,
okay.
yeah, that one.
What's the
Yeah,
point?
yeah, well, you've seen files stay in, and then you've seen names taken out or you know redacted.
Yeah, they're
So
redacting the names of perpetrators under the guise of protecting victims. There's a Judge Sullivan, probably Irish, unlike the other Sullivan, uh, crypto Jew. He decided, I want to look at these. So he had an in-camera reading, which means he gets to sit there and at least look at them and determine for himself if what the Justice Department is saying is true. Now, this just happened. This happened like July 30th, 31st, that he was going to look at it. And there's 8 emails in particular, which from the context of the email, you know, it's a guy talking about what they did to girls. So why are you blotting out the name? That's not a victim's name. It couldn't be. And yet they are. And so he will order soon his decision on whether or not these have to be released. And inevitably, the DOJ is going to do an appeal and drag it out another 60 days. He's very clever that he made it July 30th, though, because 60 days from that is still before the primaries, before the midterms. So, and it'll be right before, right? It'll be in October. So, they'll still have time if this comes out then, and the Republicans are going to get creamed. Although it's mostly liberals that are in the files, including Trump, because at the time when he did this, he was also a Democrat.
Yep.
Remember, Trump switched.
Yep. Yeah. So
Not
it's
that I mean, it's just
the same bird.
that's probably because it's women. You know, most of the Republicans are doing little boys.
Yeah, you got that
like
right.
Haskard and stuff like
When they're not on Grinder.
The guy just got caught yesterday. He was like pray the gay away guy, and he was trying to meet a 14-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Peter Mandelson, he's a homosexual Jew in the UK, appointed, appointed by Starmer, but the auspice of this horrible guy named Morgan McSweeney, who also hired the NGO against the Tate brothers. just something about that. Just another coincidence. But I mean, he was gay, and he's in the Epstein files. He's literally in his underwear. So why? I mean, he's not into little girls unless he's bisexual. It's because they had both. They had whatever poison you wanted. And that
Jaytron,
really baffling, because why would you allow an intelligence asset to set you up with any kind of sexual partner, especially a little boy, when you live in London? You can't find a little boy in London?
Well, I mean, does this not go back to that's how you get in the crew? That's how you get a part of this. And like you were saying, they ask these people to do irredeemable things, and then you have them forever. And that goes outside of politicians. I think that goes into your bankers, that goes into your CEOs, everybody that they want to make sure they have. They get them to commit some type of act, and now you're with them.
They also have no self-control, and they just do this wherever they are all the time. And it's just this one happened to be with them. When they went home, they did it too. Like, these people are constantly purchasing sex. What they do, like, it doesn't even have to be OnlyFans, which is covert prostitution. It's not digital strippers. It's prostitution. And they use crypto to get the girl to come, fly out or fly to, whatever. It doesn't make any sense because there's so many places in Europe where prostitution is legal and you could just go to the brothel legally. But they gotta have it now. And it's really gotten to the point where Instagram and TikTok are the same thing. There's little codes that that the people involved in this crap know, and they'll just slide in someone's DM and yeah, I'd like a pizza or whatever, and they know what it means. It's all
Pizza
prostitute.
and was it pizza and grape soda or something?
Pizza, hot
Well,
dogs.
take the G off of grape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what that means.
So
I mean, that
Ryan,
means an unwilling one.
Ryan, what are the main things that you think
People
people
thought grape
are
soda meant a black kid. No, that would be grape Kool-Aid. No, it's got the word rape in the word.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ryan, what are people still missing on what the issue is? What are the questions that people are maybe getting distracted from that you think should be asked?
The biggest thing are the white collar crimes. The Here's how powerful Jeffrey Epstein's network was. Ariana de Rothschild, or Edmund Rothschild Bank, I'm sure you've heard that name, went to him for a fixer job. When Goldman Sachs, who ended up losing $5 billion over this with a B, and others uh, were part of the money laundering scam, stealing from the Malaysian sovereign wealth fund billions of dollars. The Rothschilds paid Epstein 25 million to make it go away. And like, why do you think this guy can get the regulators off your back? He's just a math teacher from Dalton, right? He's just a failed hedgie from Bear Stearns. Why are you giving this guy money? They knew. How come? What could Epstein do that Goldman Sachs, with all their lawyers and all their money, couldn't accomplish? Because they lost $5 billion. The Rothschilds only ended up total paying 75 million, 25 of which was the Epstein, so really only 50. That's nothing compared to 5 billion. And it wasn't because they had a lesser role. It's because they had Epstein. She knew who to go to make the problem go away. That
And there's
level
always
of white collar crime is just enormous power. But just Staley's just the idiot that got caught because he wrote it down. He wrote down what he did in emails. But professionals never do that. They're like, ask anybody in the mob, like, no electronic communications. There, none, not on Signal, not on anything. You cannot send electronic communication, nothing safe, encryption my ass. It's all the paper system. And even the clever stuff like Clapper and Comey and stuff used to do, where they would write a draft on, like, say, Gmail and not send it, but somebody else who also has the password to that Gmail could come in, see the draft, respond to it by writing another draft. And so you just got two people logging in to an email at different places, able to read what they write, although you've never actually sent it over the internet. But guess what? They can read that too. Like anything digital is readable. And anyone that says, "Oh, not mine, not my Proton mail," not my, yes, it is. Everything on the internet can be seen. And so a lot of the Israelis know that because they're the ones looking at it. Like, Staley's just the screw up. He had other bankers, he had other people, he had them all. But Jeffrey Epstein was a bit too John Gotti. He needed the limelight. He felt too invincible. He had that sweetheart deal. All his cohorts got immunity. That was the best thing in the world for them because they
Do
don't have
you
to look over their shoulder anymore. That immunity, like, gave them all. It was like a pardon.
do you think that they potentially didn't plan? I mean, this was going on, back in the 90s and everything. Do you think they potentially didn't plan for where technology was going to be today? And that's why a lot of this was it seems so sloppy, but at the same time, back then, whoever thought we would have the ability to pull things that we do now, and it was potentially their downfall.
Yeah, well, they're just so arrogant, and mostly it was phone calls, right? And now you can intercept that, but there were so many phone calls, especially before email. There wasn't a way to crunch all that data. You can now with AI, but you couldn't. It was just, even if you had them all, you couldn't never dig through them all. But a lot of the deals being made were over the phone.
Yeah.
Email was kind of increases from around 2006 onward. You start getting more mail than phone calls, or you get text messages / email. Before that, is people just called you. And these people don't care about roaming or any of that. They're billionaires. They just do a quick call, done. No trace of it, no written record of it. They don't want to write that, especially had a good time with the young one or whatever. They're not going to do that. But they got so brazen. They thought, we've got the president. And the president appointed the DCI, the CIA. James Woolsey, who just passed away, may he rest in hell. He wasn't going to do anything. He lied about anthrax and 9/11. I mean, he did that later, but he didn't do anything on Epstein because who chose to be the head of the CIA, and Clinton did it because Clinton's an Epstein client. Nobody has a larger flight log to Rape Island than Bill Clinton. And somehow he had to talk to Congress too. And he sat there reminiscing, like, let me see that again. Like, oh, the memory. He's smiling. His lawyer's like, put that down. He's like, he didn't care. He's got one foot in the grave. Slick
I've
Willie.
seen it.
He didn't give a damn. He was doing that as governor. Barry Seal operated out of Arkansas during Iran Contra. He was trained by David Ferry from the Kennedy assassination, killed Officer Tippit. That it's just like a long chain of these crooks. But Clinton has no F's to give. Like, 29, 39 times, whatever. He's like, they're all interested in Trump. I say, wow, listen, getting Bill Clinton's a big deal. That's a former president of the United States. He knows a lot of stuff on everybody. You could squeeze him. They're not going to. Because remember the reason for the mortgage-backed security fraud, why there was no real consequences. They said it's too big to fail.
Yeah,
it's too big to jail. I'll tell on all of you. It's like you can't, or he'll Clinton you. I mean, his name is the verb that means somebody.
So
Ryan,
basically, I mean, what you're saying is this is pretty much all coming from the Rothschild entity. Epstein was a fall guy for them, and what it all goes back to is
no, other way around. They work for him. She had to go to him to get out of trouble.
Oh.
The Rothschilds are not. This isn't 1892 or whatever. Like, it doesn't work like that. The top is the Israeli state. They got a state now. It's not just Rothschild bankers doing fractional reserve banking and rip people off. The real movers and shakers is the Likud party. I mean, they have nuclear weapons. They have a country. They have a tax base. That's way better than a bank. It's Israel. And Israel set this up. They're spying on science and technology out of the U.S. They use Epstein to do it. And all these hedgies and stuff. Les Wexner, why do you think he bought Victoria's Secret? You think he's just interested in underwear? He wanted the girls.
Yeah.
It's power. You asked me how the Tates made money. Whores. That's Ryan, what people buy. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Porn is like what people buy.
Yep.
Ryan, you mentioned blackmail earlier as being one of the biggest issues here. How's that work? Who's behind it? Where? Who's blackmailing who for what? I mean, you mentioned honey trap. If you can, what's the motivation here? What's the end game? How's the system work?
Most people think blackmail is when you get dirt on somebody and then you say do it or else. That is a form of blackmail, like the lowest level. What was going on here was like co-compromising, so that if you're going to do illegal white collar crimes in the millions or sometimes billions, you got to know this guy isn't going to flip, isn't going to say anything, isn't going to renege on the deal.
He's one of us.
So one way to, you bang a 13-year-old is pretty damn certain, like, yeah, you're not a cop, whatever. You're not an agent of any sort, because they're not going to do that. But I'm more or less getting closer to the opinion that although that makes sense, I think it's just how these people are. I think they just like to R-word people. That was kind of secondary. White collar, crime and spying and all was what they were, doing. But as far as trafficking women as a service, it was more like a reward. Like, yeah, we just effed over so here, have a couple 16-year-olds. Like, it's just something they are all into. You look at his birthday card, all of them. It's not like he made them do it. And think about it. If you're not attracted to kids, you're not attracted to kids. You can't make someone interested into a 13-year-old, 14-year-old. You're just not, right? All of us are like, I don't want to have sex with a kid. Like, it's not like, oh, I wish if it wasn't for the law. It's like, no, I don't have any interest in that. These people are weird. They're sick, man. And it wasn't always that. Sometimes it was just an 18-year-old, 20-year-old young, if they're 50 to 20, that's yeah. That I understand a little bit more, but it's like, man, why would you compromise yourself? You could do all those activities yourself without involving this middleman. And so the only thing that makes sense is this is part of the prove you're one of us type of thing as like an insurance policy.
Jaytron, any final question?
But again, it's an insurance policy that wouldn't work if they weren't already sick in the head to begin with.
Well, yeah, I would add on that. I mean, I think it goes back to the blackmail, and the whole point of this is to make sure our entire Congress and everybody involved in the U.S. is able to, if they are blackmailed, then they can push whatever type of agenda we need. That's why we're in the war with Iran right now, and that's why we're headed towards God only knows what. And we watch our politicians make decisions that every average American knows this is not in our interest, and they make it anyway. You have to go something. There's a reason they're doing this when there's nothing back in this, and that
bribes too. But it's a little bit more sinister than that. It's not like they wait for you to get to Congress and then try to blackmail you. It's the other way around. They blackmail someone and then promote that person to become a congressman.
That's another discussion I'm very interested in. I do still want to talk to you about 9/11, but briefly, Ryan, you got two posters behind you. You've been following the Epstein stuff, putting that list together.
We have 7/11 now.
What?
That's when Lindsey Graham died, July 11th.
Oh, I didn't even realize
Doesn't that make 7/11 even better?
Yeah. That is perfect. That's actually a day we'll celebrate.
It's funny because 7/11 made the Slurpee, and that was Lindsey's nickname.
Favorite thing he did. Favorite thing he did. Slurpees and ladybug.
I don't know why.
Maybe 7-Eleven will have a ladybug drink coming out soon.
I want Iran to make a Kramshaw 4 with ladybug paint. Make it happen.
Oh, yes. Do you enjoy the Iran AI videos? Have you seen those? The propaganda?
Like the Legos? Those are American.
Yeah.
Those are what? Iran. Everyone's like, Iran dropped another Lego video. Those are two guys that live in the United States making all those Lego videos.
So if you guys can, I've seen them. They're enjoyable to watch, but like,
they're not Iranian though.
So why are they saying? Why are they, whoever they are, saying that it's from Iran? So if you can explain that,
they're not. Other people are saying that about them. They've even said we're in Michigan or whatever. It doesn't matter. They're like Iranian video. Okay. Because Twitter is retarded.
Because the whole thing is like stuff. They're doing a whole Iranian propaganda. They're trying to make it seem Iranian, I guess, right?
Like, no, I mean, it's funny. It's like they're making fun of Trump and all that, but it's Americans that are doing it.
Yeah.
Like I have interviews with state TV out of Iran and stuff. Like the audio stuff barely works. Like they aren't making AI. The sanctions and the scrambling and all it has an impact. It doesn't have a real, it's just all annoying stuff like blowing up bridges. They'll just make another one. There's no super complex rare earth components in a bridge. It's just, concrete and steel, rebar and whatever. Like, but when you lose a satellite communication hub or a THAAD radar, you're out billions and you can't just build another one. You don't have the gallium, you don't have the semiconductors, you don't have the milling, you don't have it. You got a good 24-month window just to get the components before the assembly even starts. It's not like a rocket's not just like a warhead, a tube, and it's a complex machine. To hit a bullet with a bullet, to hit a ballistic missile with a defense missile, costs a lot of money and know-how, and we're out. And as far as offensively, if you look at the ATACMS, they fire from HIMARS. It's called standoff munitions. Anyone that's ever played like Warcraft or something knows, like if you want to hit the little bunker, you want to go like one space distance further than they can shoot, and eventually it'll destroy and you get no damage to yourself. Well, as long as you can outrange the enemy, it's slow, but you can sit there and pick at them, and you're getting no damage to yourself. Well, we're out of those, about 80% down. Got about 20% left. Now, U.S. has enough dumb bombs, opposite of a smart bomb, to bomb Iran for like another year straight. But if you get within range to use a dumb bomb, they're going to shoot your planes down, which they already demonstrated the last couple of days of the war, that rescue mission that they were really trying to destroy uranium. They lost an F-15E, which is the most advanced fighter jet we have. They lost an F-16, an A-10 Warthog, like 5 or 6 refuelers, an F-35, which is a stealth aircraft. You know, I don't think they got a Raptor yet, but whatever. Like, it's coming. If they go in without the and so a bunch of helicopters, Apaches, Little Birds, all that stuff got destroyed. So you're going to see a lot of casualties and a lot more aircraft going down, you know, to Kuwaiti friendly fire or mechanical problems or whatever they blame it on. You know?
And all essentially to go after nuclear weapons that have never actually been invented. I mean, this has been the story for 30 years now, and that's what I think Americans never
6
realized.
months away.
Like for 30 years.
Ryan, you mentioned 7-Eleven, Lindsey Graham. What's the truth about that? And then secondly, if you can tell us what the ANC report's all about.
I think when Iran won the war, it gave him a heart attack. I think he realized he was 71 years old. He had just flown to Ukraine because that's his favorite thing, you know, war. He visited some drone factories, one of which was blown up right after he left because the idiot had a cell phone. So they tagged it. Russia hit it. He flew back to D.C., but it was like, for a 71-year-old man, first of all, to get to Kiev, you got to go to Poland, and then you got to take an 8 or 9 hour train ride, and then you got to do that reverse. So the train ride and the plane ride are almost the same. I think he left from DC or New York, whatever, East Coast to Poland. Yeah, it's about 10 hours or so, and then another 9 hour train. So like he went there, met Zelensky, went and got his photo op holding a drone. In my video, I said his last words, "Let's see if it fits. Let's slide it right in, fellas."
Thank you, Ryan.
I got a nasty little Lindsay on video. Only person watching is Ted Cruz. He's like, I can top it. So I think that a lot of strain on him, though. Not the drone, like the trip, like going that far back and not taking a rest really probably did him in. He had heart trouble. It was weird how they raided his house, though. They had all these FBI agents at his home in South Carolina, and I'm like, all I want to know about that is, did you liberate the hamsters?
You think Mitch McConnell's actually alive, or is this just what is it? Weekend at Bernie's?
I mean, if he is, he's brain dead. He's practically dead. Yeah, he's not gonna. He's not. He already resigned. He's not running for Senate. Haley Stevens missed. She lost her primary, and with "I Dream About Israel," she's gone. Lost to Muslim.
Yeah, that I knew that. Once I saw her doing that and that clip went around, I was like, yeah, she's done. I try to tell people now, I'm like, people are going to vote for whoever AIPAC doesn't fund. And that's all it comes down to. Left and right will be,
I think you're right,
irrelevant.
I think Dan Bilzerian's going to beat Randy Fine. No one, they're like, nah, you got, I'm like, yep. He's out.
Randy Fine, that guy sings
commercials on Fox. He's got door knockers hitting like 2,000 houses a day.
Yeah.
Hey, look, as they prove with Thomas Massey, you spend enough money, you can win a race. Dan has the money and he's got better ideas, but you got to have both. If you just had better ideas, Ron Paul would be president.
No, amen.
You got to have.
Do you see a third party emerging with the Thomas Massey, Tucker Carlson, America First? What are your thoughts there?
Unfortunately, that the term America First has been tainted by those frog-dwelling incel faggots, but the putting America's interest first is something you ought to do anyway. I don't see a third party in name because you like all the people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, Ron Paul and his son, they all Republicans. Glenn Jacob, Republican. They're not, they're libertarian, but they just write Republican. So you get all the automatic votes. What I see is like a party within a party. You're going to see the sort of like the Rhino Republicans and then like the more Jeffersonian style ones, or the Ron Paul type Republicans, this you could say the Paulites or whatever, which are very close to libertarian. They're very libertarian-ish, but they know that from practical, just to be a pragmatist, people just auto vote Republican on the ticket, and libertarians are never going to win. Plus, you got a bunch of other libertarians that aren't actually libertarians; they're anarchists, and they're like the Dave Smith types. They're like, don't know if you should have age of consent law and stuff like that. Like this, fuck those people. Like anarchy took over the Libertarian Party, and libertarians are taking over the Republican Party. It's hilarious. And socialists are taking over the liberals. Like they're democratic socialists are going to win.
Which is the biggest story there is right now. I feel like I'm tired of hearing of that.
Dude, I know why. I mean, millennials and Zoomers, you can't buy a house. Nope. And so the socialist stuff is a very attractive idea. Like, can I get some free shit? Because, the boomers are starting to find out because of this war, when they go to the gas pump and fill up their car, it costs more than their first home. Yep. It's just these kids are like these really horrible economic ideas don't sound so bad to them because they've been so screwed over by the current system. But it's out of the pot and into the fire. I wish they realized that, but they don't. But I understand why they're willing to just try anything. And there's nothing democratic socialism is just socialism.
Yeah.
I mean, being democratic doesn't matter. Like, you end up with it. It's well, look, we've always had a mixed system. But when they talk about like regressive taxes and stuff, I'm like, I would just get rid of the income tax for everybody and replace it with stop going to war for Israel.
Ryan,
like, do you want a sales tax? I'm like, no, I don't even want a federal government. But if you're gonna replace, you can replace it with happiness. Like, replace it with stop spending it on stupid. You don't need to spend trillions of dollars, increase the deficit. Quit giving $100 billion to Ukraine. Stop going to war with Iran, Syria, Iraq, Libya. Like, if you had not done all that, you would have trillions in surplus. You don't need an income tax. You don't need tariffs, Mr. Lincoln. Imagine if states tariffed each other. Like, imagine if North Carolina tariffed New York or tariffed New Jersey. Like, imagine like if you didn't have free trade, what a nightmare that would be.
Yeah.
And they don't get it. It's what I love though is all these liberal Yankees talking about how the tariff is actually going to hurt consumers. I go, yes, it does. And it did with Lincoln too. They're like, if you're going to tariff, it's the same thing. The sales tax is a buyer's tax. When you go to the store and you buy, I don't know, a can of Coke or whatever, and you pay the sales. Wait, who pays the sales tax?
Yeah.
Person selling or the person buying?
Buyer.
The buyer. It's a buyer's tax. Exactly. What do you think the tariff? Oh, we're tariffing other countries. I'm like, you're tariffing the consumer. All taxes tax the consumer. I don't want to go on this giant economic rant, but like, this is simple to me. Like, every tax gets passed on to the bottom rung, which is the consumer. Oh, you don't pay a mortgage. Do you have a property tax? Yeah, then you don't really own your house. If you're getting taxed a third of your wealth in income taxes, then that means for every 3 years you worked one of them.
Liability.
Which means that's part-time slavery. That's the coolie trade.
Ryan, thanks so much for being here. Jaytron and I are just thrilled to have you.
Hate taxes. Dude, get rid of the income tax and the 19th. I'll sometimes make
you're an
that
interesting
joke.
guest
The
for
16th
sure.
Amendment is the income tax. 19th gave women the right to vote. So I'm always like, repeal the 19th. Oh, did I screw that up? I meant 16. Or did I?
Ryan, if people want to follow you, find you, how do they do that?
You need smoke signals. I have Substack, so it's I am native enough to get away with that joke. It's ryandawson.org. That's my Substack. And then Since Nikita Bear just stepped down, maybe X is X again. I don't know, but on X, it's RY Liberty, Rye Liberty, all one word. And you can add my Twitter. I don't treat Twitter very seriously because I think it's like a retarded playground. So be warned, there's no maturity. I just
rage bait
people right on Twitter. My Lindsey Graham jokes alone are worth it though. Like
I'm literally subscribing as we speak because I just want to see the
Lindsey Graham. I used to dog on John McCain constantly, then he died, and I switched to Lindsey Graham, next worst person in the world, and he died. Yeah. And I'm thinking Loomer, maybe? I think
you need to stop. I think you need to stop.
Loomer might have a while,
they put a picture up in the zoo. Do you know that? No. They needed to get something to make the monkey stop masturbating.
Oh my God.
All right, Ryan, thanks so much for being here as always.
Yeah.
Ryan Dawson. This is where we pull the plug. Thanks everybody for being here.